Everyone says Gen Z will never own a home, that it's too expensive, the system is broken, and we basically missed our chance. But I bought one at 23, and I'm not saying that to flex, because honestly, it felt impossible for a long time. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how I made it work, what actually mattered, what didn't, and what I would do differently if I had to start over today. Let's just be real about the situation right now. Interest rates are high, home prices are at an all-time high, and rent, it's not even much cheaper than owning anymore. You're stuck in this weird spot where you can't afford to buy, but renting doesn't really help you get ahead either. About a year ago, I was a broke, frustrated college student with a finance degree, and still no clear path to buying a home. And that disconnect, that's what makes this so frustrating for a lot of people. You feel like you're doing things the right way, but it still feels out of reach. I'm going to take one step back and just tell a little story. One moment that I remember really clearly that started me on the journey to financial independence and my goal of retiring early. I was at a gas station. I swiped my card and it declined. Not because of fraud or anything, my credit card wasn't frozen. I just simply didn't have enough money in my account. I ended up having to sell some of the small investments I had just to fill up my tank and get home. And that was a turning point. Not because it was some dramatic rock bottom moment, but because it forced me to face reality. If I didn't get serious about money fast, I was going to fall behind and I wasn't going to reach my goals. So I made a plan. Not a perfect plan, but something I could actually act on. And here's what I realized pretty quickly. Buying a home today isn't about doing what worked 10 years ago. Saving slowly and waiting for the right time just doesn't cut it anymore. If you're a part of Gen Z, you have to play the game differently. And here's what actually worked. First, one realization I had, one that changed everything for me, was that saving money alone wasn't going to get me there. There's only so much you can cut. I needed to increase my income. So I started focusing less on cutting expenses and more on becoming valuable. I took internships, I picked up extra skills like accounting and some basic coding, and I looked for ways to stand out in the job market. I went to career fairs and practiced interviews with career coaches at my college. And no, you don't have to follow that exact path. There are many ways to increase your income. But the reality is this. In this market, your income matters more than ever. Budgeting is important, but like I said earlier, there's a limit to how much you can cut out. At some point, the math just stops working, and the only way forward is to earn more. That could mean switching jobs, negotiating your salary, or building a side income. But something has to move on the income side. The second big factor was having two incomes, and I know not everyone wants to hear that, but for me and my wife, it made a massive difference. Splitting housing costs, qualifying for a bigger loan, and having a little more breathing room, it all adds up fast. However, this doesn't just mean marriage. It could be a partner, it could be a close friend, it could be a roommate situation, it could be a parent. But trying to do this completely solo right now, it's possible, but it's way harder. This is one trick a lot of Gen Z people are using to get into homes. The third thing we had to do was get really honest with ourselves. We couldn't afford the dream house. Not the perfect location, not the fully renovated kitchen, not the big backyard or the new build. And once we accepted that, things got a lot easier. We started looking for homes that might have needed a little bit of work, different neighborhoods, smaller spaces. And suddenly, instead of zero options, we actually had choices. However, the caveat to this is if you're going to take this approach, make sure you hire a good home inspector. You don't want to get yourself into an investment into a home where you're dealing with problems and you have mold, structural issues, and expensive things come up and surprise you. A lot of people get stuck waiting for the perfect home, but in this market, perfect usually means unaffordable, especially for Gen Z. Another huge factor was finding a really good agent. And I didn't realize how important this was at first. Good agents don't just unlock doors and show houses. They help you find opportunities. They understand the market. They help you structure offers in a way that actually gets accepted while also not wasting any extra money. Ours pointed out properties we would have skipped, helped us move quickly when it mattered, and made the whole process less overwhelming. If you're serious about buying, this matters more than you think. We found ours by just trying to go on different home tours and meeting different agents until we found one that worked for us. But the biggest reason that this was possible, and what I would say the main point is for Gen Z to take away, or really anyone in this market looking to buy a home or any property, is house hack. That means buying a home or a duplex or a triplex or something like that and renting part of it out. For instance, the home we bought is a little bit bigger than we need, but it has a separate kitchen upstairs and downstairs and completely separate living. The rental income it brings is about $2,000 a month, which covers a huge chunk of our mortgage. That completely changed the math for us. And since we're first-time home buyers, we were able to get different subsidies and qualify for different things locally that helped us get the house. We also only had to put 3.5% down, which was great because we didn't have that much time to save up after we graduated from college just a few months before. Yeah, our interest rate is around 7% right now, which isn't great. But here's the thing people don't talk about enough. You can refinance later. You can increase your income later. You can improve the property over time. But you can't benefit from any of that if you never get into the market in the first place. And generally, with real estate, things aren't getting any cheaper. House hacking basically lowered the barrier of entry enough for us to step in. And once you're in, you have options. Even with all of this, it still didn't feel easy. We were looking at a really expensive market where the median home price was over $500,000, and at first it felt completely out of reach. Like no matter what we did, we were always one step behind. And I'm sure a lot of other members of Gen Z feel that way too. But once we combined everything, higher income, realistic expectations, and a strategy like house hacking, it finally started to click. Not easy, but possible. So no, buying a home right now as Gen Z isn't easy. It's not the same as our parents, definitely not the same as our grandparents, and it's not getting any easier. It's one of the hardest environments we've seen in a long time, but it is possible if you increase your income, stay realistic about what you can afford, and use strategies like house hacking to make the numbers work. You simply can't play the game the way people used to. On this channel, my goal is to document my journey to financial freedom and retiring early. If this is something that interests you, or if you're trying to do this yourself, please subscribe and follow along. I'm trying to build a community here with like-minded individuals who can help each other, share tips and strategies, and grow together.